Welcome guys. We are going to be working on a brochure design this week. You've already completed your thumbnail sketches, and now what I'm going to show you how to do is how to set up your Illustrator document to do your computer comp. Now the computer comp is just it's still a rough. It's not finalized yet, but what we're doing is setting up the document and doing some preliminary measurements and setting up where we're going to put our type and our images or our shapes. Again, it's one step further in the plan beyond the thumbnail sketches. So again, this is the computer comp, and in order to create a computer comp we have to do it in a software, and we've chosen Adobe Illustrator. This is a tool that's frequently used by graphic designers, and either Illustrator or InDesign is typically what you would do a brochure layout in. Quite often I do it in InDesign because it's a multi-page layout kind of software, but because we've worked in Illustrator the last couple of exercises, we're going to do this one in Illustrator. So the first thing that we're going to do is File and New, and that's a Command or Control N, and that brings up a dialog box with decisions that we need to make about this document. So we're going to call this brochure design and your name. We're going to make sure that the profile is set for print. And this is 2 artboards, so we are going to bump that up to 2. Now you'll see that the measurement units is currently in points. I'm going to change that to inches. And you'll see that the spacing relates to how far apart each one of the artboards are, and it's a little more than 1/4 inch, and that's fine. And we're going to set up the number of columns for 3. It's going to be a trifold, and I'm not quite sure if 3 columns is going to give us an accurate measurement, but we're at least going to try that. And then with the width is going, why will that not let me, I don't know, we're going to try this again. It'll either let me do 1 or 2 columns. It will not let me do 3. But we're going to try anyway. I'm going to change this to 11. I'm going to change the height to 8.5. We're going to make sure that it is in landscape versus portrait orientation. And now I'm going to come down here to the, it won't let me do any more than 2 columns. How weird is that? Why is that? Oh, that's number of artboards per row, right? No, I want the columns. Okay, just 2, I guess, whatever. I actually, in working with InDesign, there is a dialog box that allows you to select the number of columns for your artboard. Now, I thought this was relating to columns of artboard, columns within your document. This is actually just relating to columns of your artboards. So sorry about that. That's why it wouldn't allow me to put 3 in there, because it wants us to do the same number of artboards. Okay, fine. So now it's 11 by 8.5. Orientation is landscape, and the bleed, which is the amount of spillover outside the trim edge or outside the 8.5 by 11, it's going to extend 1/8 inch or 0.125. And what that does is gives the printer some wiggle room as he or she are trimming it down to the 11 by 8.5. 11 by 8.5. And by wiggle room, I mean you would extend your color, you'd extend your imagery, and if you had type right to the edge, which most of us don't do, but in the event that you did, you'd need to extend it about 1/8 inch in order to accommodate this bleed, and again, to give our printers some wiggle room when trimming it. All right, the advanced CMYK is the color mode. We all know that: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, or if we don't know, we'll know that soon. That's the process color that we use when we're working in print, and we want it at a high of 300 pixels per inch. At medium, if you were doing newsprint, for example, a newspaper, a medium of 150 pixels per inch would be adequate. But for a nice brochure with good resolution, good imagery, or shapes, we definitely want it at 300 pixels per inch. Screen would be only if you were using it for the web, for example. All right, so we are going to click OK. Looks like everything here is as we want it. And you'll see that we have two artboards. And this red line is the trim line, and this white is the area that's actually going to print. And I am going to go up here to View, and I'm going to go down to Rulers, and I'm going to say Show Rulers. And what you'll see is that at the top and the side of our artboard there are rulers. And this is going to allow me to set up my three-fold brochure so that when I am completing the information inside my brochure, I want it to be exact as it relates to the columns on both front and back. So the columns, in fact, what we could have done is we could have set these up one on top of another, and then you would have just had to set up your measurements once. But I kind of like to see them side by side, so that's why I've set it left to right. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little crosshair up in the upper left-hand corner, and I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to drag it right down to the top left-hand corner of that first left artboard, and set the 0 starting point there. Now remember, it's 11.5, it's 8.5 by 11, so 11 we want to divide by 3 to get 3 even columns, right? So let's see what, and I always use the calculator even though I could probably do this in my head, but just to be on the safe side, we're going to do 11 divided by 3, and that equals 3.66. All right, we'll see how that works. So we are going to take our first artboard, our first ruler measurement, and we're going to drop it here. And you'll see that I'm going to bring up the transform box, and you'll see that I dropped that first measurement at 2.04. Well, I want to change that, so I'm going to go 3.666 and click OK or return. And you'll see what happens is that first measurement line jumps to 3.66. So I'm going to get another measuring line, and I am going to drop it here. Any place actually you can drop it, but you need to change the crosshairs now. So the 0 starting point is over here on this yellow line, or on this first guide that we just established at 3.66. All right, so there is 0 point is marked there. And why do I do that, you say? Well, I am going to take that, select it, I'm going to bring up my transform panel, and I'm going to again put 3.66 and hit return. And now we should have a fairly equal measurement, although does that look like it's equal? All right, so there is 0 to 3.66, and let's see where this one is. See, now this one is a little off right here, isn't it? Yeah, see, that's supposed to be at 3.66, so I'm going to change that. I'm going to change this back. I think maybe I picked up the wrong line or something, so I probably need to start all over on these measurements. So we're going to do this again. We're going to set the 0 point here. I'm going to select this first one, and I am going to get the transform tool, and that is at 3.66. So I was right. So we're going to take this then, and we're going to set this 0 point again right here at this first guide, and we're going to select this guide and we're going to pull up the transform, and that's also at 3.66. So we're good. We are golden. So you'll see that each one of these is your columns as it relates to your 3-column or trifold brochure. I'm going to select these two. I'm going to go up to View and over to Rulers. And I was going to lock them if I could. I don't want to hide them, but all right, I'm sure we can lock those. How can we do that? Well, maybe it doesn't allow you to lock it anymore. I can't believe that, though. I'm pretty sure. I just don't know where to do it any longer. I used to be able to lock the ruler underneath this option someplace, but let's see if we can lock the selection. So I guess that's what we would do, is we would select both of these rulers, and then we would go to Object and Lock, and we would lock the selection. Now these would be unable to be selected or changed. Okay, so we're going to set up the second brochure's guidelines for the columns or for the 3-fold. So I'm going to click this, and we're going to click and drag this crosshair over here to establish our starting point in the upper left-hand corner of this document window. Remember, this is the back side. So now we're going to pick up another ruler, and we're going to pick it up, bring it over here, and just drop it. We're going to go up to our transform panel, and we're going to fill in 3.66 and hit Tab or Enter. And then we're going to get that little crosshair again. Come over here and set up the crosshair here. Bring another ruler over and just drop it on this artboard someplace. And then we are, again, because the 0 point starts here, it will start measuring from that 0 point. You'll see that it's -1 point or 1.35. It's because it's on the other side of the 0, or on the other side of the starting point. So we're going to do 3.66 and hit Tab. And there's our 3 columns for our folds on our second artboard, or on the back. I'm going to select these two, and I'm going to go up under Object, and I'm going to lock the selection, and so now our guides are locked. And now I would suggest that you do Command S or to save your document, brochure design, and we're going to go into 120. I'm going to save it here. All right, so that's it for this setup. I will be back and show you how to place images or shapes and type for the next step in your brochure comp setup. Thanks, and I'll be back in a little bit.